Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're going to take a break from doing some reviews and we're going to jump into a build, or maybe the better phrase is we're going to jump into a rebuild. So you guys know that I wanted to redo my Haunted Mansion display. It was a fairly small display when I first started, but I wanted, and I did not do a video on it. That's how long ago that I did the original display. It's before I had the YouTube channel. And so I've had 100 requests to go through and rebuild this display. And so I've thought about it, I've looked at it, and I've got sort of a dilemma. I love the way that it looks. It's very detailed. It was very difficult to do. It's got a lot of intricate work in it. And so what I think I'm going to try to do, instead of rebuild the entire thing, is I'm going to expand it to where hopefully no one would be able to tell. And then I'm going to build more onto it to hold all of the Department 56 Haunted Mansion items that are available today. That includes the Haunted Mansion itself. That includes the gate for the Haunted Mansion. It includes the hitchhiking ghost, the singing bus, and then for this year that you saw the review on already, the haunted hearse. So I'm going to try to encompass all of those pieces into one piece and rebuild it and revamp it to where it looks like it's brand new and repurposed and ready to go for this coming season. So that's what we're going to do. That's where we're going to start. And so we're going to start by looking at what we've got and how we've got it set up. And then we'll talk a little bit about the methodology and the thought behind it, and then how we're going to go through and start piecing this together. As always, this will be a multi-series tutorial, but I think it will give you a better idea of how you can take something old and repurpose it into something a little more new and modern, and maybe use that to fit more display pieces on. That's the idea anyway. So with that, let's jump off and take a look at what we're going to do. Okay, so here we are. So I have thought long and hard about how am I going to do this. And then every time I look at this, the nostalgia starts coming back. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of intricate detail. And so I thought maybe we just add on to it. And so if I zoom out a little bit here, you can kind of see how I've got things started, or at least attempting to get them started. And let's walk through at least my thought process on how I want to do this. So first and foremost, I want to show you some of the detail work, right? Look, the little bricks here, right, are all done on the Proxxon hot wire table. It's pink styrofoam that is cut incredibly small. They were detailed with a pencil tip because they're pretty fragile, and then they were bent very, very carefully and hot glued down to the pink base. And so that is just the pink base sitting on there, but it looks just like concrete, and that's why I'm so pleased with how it turned out. The concrete turned out incredibly well all the way through the turnstiles here. And the way the concrete was done, honestly, and you guys have seen me do this before, was with the tin foil rolling technique. I take a piece of crumpled up tin foil. I basically put these marks with just rolling the tin foil, just in different motions around the area that's going to look like concrete. Now, obviously, I did that before I put the bricks down. The bricks are simply just glued on top of the already rolled concrete texture using that tin foil. And then I painted it all black, just like I painted the bricks all black. And then I went through and detailed it with various shades of gray, leaving some of the black to kind of come through, just like I do on my sidewalks, except this looks really just like kind of a textured concrete. And so that's how that is done. The bricks were then painted various shades of reds and browns to get them to look like the to get them to look like the brick color, and then a little black wash to kind of weather them up a little bit, and a little bit of gray on top of some areas that you can kind of see over in here, just to kind of give them a more of a weathered look as well. So lots of details into the brickwork. And then a lot of folks said, okay, how did you do the stanchions? Well, the stanchions these are dollhouse fence posts, or actually I think it's just maybe stair railing or something. I got them at Hobby Lobby. They come in a pack of, I think, 6, and then I cut them down to the size that I thought was appropriate with just a small little saw. I painted them green because the Haunted Mansion stanchion cones, the metal stanchions at Disneyland, are green with a gold capped ball on the top. And then there's the the chain that is just basically jewelry chain, really cheap, that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I dropped a tad of hot glue on top, and then basically strung it through to the hot glue to where you can see it obviously stays and looks like stanchion. Did the same thing over here, and then the same thing over here. All those are done the same. And when I started to try to think maybe I should redo this whole thing, because I love adding details. I think my work has gotten better since I first created this. And so I think another start from the very beginning would look good, but it's a lot of hard work. And so when I start trying to pull these out, these are hot glued into the foam. You can kind of see, if I zoom in and focus a little bit better down there, you can see how they're kind of hot glued in there. And so to get these out and to reuse them would be next to impossible. And so I'd have to rebuy those and then re-go and do all that stuff. I did buy some other ones in anticipation of this, although they don't look as cool as what's already on there. And so taking all of that in consideration, I thought, well, maybe I should just add on to this one. So the thought process led to this, putting it on a different base, and that's where the green, these are 2 foot by 2 foot sheets of green XPS foam that you buy at the hardware store. They're already pre-cut. And so I've lined 2 of them up here. One of them is just not big enough. 2 of them is way too big. And so what I've tried to do, just to see what I would like, how I would like this to look, I would like the gate to be incorporated into this display, and then I would like to carry the gate into a fence that goes all the way around the Haunted Mansion. So we will end up covering all this up with grass eventually. It'll just kind of roll off to the side. We will add fencing that hopefully matches pretty close, maybe, to the gate. That's going to be hard. These are very tiny little bricks, and you can see these are very big bricks. And so we got to do a lot of work. This will probably be done with pencil again, which is going to be very time consuming. And then try to build a fence that represents as close as we can to this. There's 2 different fence types, and I will show you that here in a moment, that I think that I'm going to try to use. Anyway, I would like to get the gate and a fence, just like it sits at Disneyland, all the way around, or at least on all 3 sides, the front and the 2 sides of this Haunted Mansion display. So that was the idea. I also want to add some LED lighting to illuminate the hearse at night, and I want to add some LED lighting to illuminate the ghosts at night, and perhaps some LED lighting to illuminate the singing bus at night. The house lights up all by itself, and so I don't have to worry about that. So this is still going to be a pretty good undertaking, and I think once we're done with it, it will look familiar. You'll see all of this stuff here that's going to remain, because I look at it again. To redo it, I would try to do it exactly the same way. So maybe I'm saving myself some time. That's the idea. And so I've got some lines cut or marked here, and so what I'm going to do is I've kind of measured out. I want the gate to line up with the entryway there, right? And so in order to do that, that's about where the gate needs to sit. Now in Disneyland, the gate is sort of canted like this into the attraction. I thought about trying to do that, but it leaves all this open space, and then you've got a whole big, a lot of other stuff to do. And so instead of that, I'm thinking I'm just going to put the gate flush this way and then be done with it. And so there will be a cut on the Proxon using, and I'll show you how to do that. I'll probably do that inside so you can see it, but there will be a cut on the Proxon right there, going all the way across this piece of styrofoam. The cut will continue onto this piece of styrofoam, and then I'm going to cut this piece of styrofoam here all the way up, running that way, and that will be for the fence going down that way. Now that's going to leave a gap over on this side, and so I've got another measurement, and it's somewhat hard to see, but that other measurement is going to run us another piece of foam from, I'll move the gate, another piece of foam that's going to come out to about here and go down this way. And it's going to butt up to this. It's going to be hot glued up against this. It's going to have, it's going to be painted, and then there's going to be grass put down. And ideally, you'll never know. That's going to be the tricky part, that there is the piece glued on there. And then there'll be some vegetation and things like that on it as we start to finally, get the final details on it. But with any luck, it will hopefully be imaginary and invisible, and no one will know the difference. That could be a challenge, but we will see how that turns out. And so that's the initial plan, and hopefully that all makes sense to you guys. With that, let me put you back on a tripod and show you some of the different types of fencing that I'm going to try to use. Okay, well, hopefully that all sort of comes together and makes sense of how we're going to try to revamp and repurpose this older display into something more modern and new, and obviously large enough to encompass all of the Haunted Mansion pieces. The problem is when they come out with one next year, we may have to revisit this whole thing again, and that's okay. It just keeps evolving. So with the fence, let me show you the gate again. So the gate is like this. Now this gate does not light up. It does not open. It's beautiful. I love it. But it's not functional at all. And it comes with these little metal fences here. Now these metal fences, honest to goodness, this doesn't even look like the fence around the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. It's nice here, but it doesn't match identically. Neither do the lights, neither do the vases. It's close enough, but it's not perfect. I've taken many a picture and trying to prepare how to do this year, and these are close, but not perfect. Irrespective of that, this is the fence that I'm working with. So I would like to try to match what's already on the gate. That lends itself to be a problem. And the reason it does is because I've got two types of fencing. I've got two types that I've purchased. I've got a third that I could probably make. So the first type is this. This is dollhouse fencing I bought off of eBay. I've got quite a bit of it, and so this is way too big. So let me kind of show you the size comparison here. So everything is going to be too big, no matter how you slice it. So that's not going to work, right? It doesn't even look right. And so I've taken this fence before and cut it down, and when you cut it down, you've got a top half and a bottom half. This is the bottom half of that fence. This would be into the brickwork down here, and so that does work height-wise, because you're going to have the stonework down here, you're going to have the pillars, and you would just cut this to match. So size-wise, it's okay, but you can see that it doesn't match at all, like zero. And so that's concerning to me. The other type of commercial type fencing that I've got is this kind. This is the miniature ironworks type fencing. This is really, really cool. This is what I use to make my graveyard fencing out of. This is a little more expensive. It's more, I say more difficult to find. It's more difficult to find in a big lot. You can buy individual pieces, but it starts to become expensive. And so again, I usually cut these down into about half of this. But that doesn't look right either. Even if you cut it down, it's got all these big, these big tips at the top and it just doesn't look right. So I'm not gonna use this one. I've already determined that. I might elect to use this type going around, and I think it'll look okay. It'll look like a fence once all the work is done, but it's not close to this, right? And so the other option is a scratch built fence. It would take a little time, but I think it might look better. Maybe. I haven't tried this. I might try it. It's this, okay? Plastic arrow picks. Get a whole box of these on Amazon. I got these a couple of years ago for this idea. Not for this, but for building a fence idea around a graveyard or a haunted house or what have you. Let me put the gate down and show you what these look like, okay? So these are, and I'm just gonna grab a few of them out of the box. They're these little skinny sticks. They do have little points on the end. I know it's hard to focus, but when you start putting them really close together, and then obviously you would have to put a drop of super glue, and you could use one this way and then cut it to have your fence. You kind of get the idea of what that's starting to look like. Obviously they would be much closer, but when I hold a couple up, it's very difficult for me to kind of do this so you can see it on video, but when I hold a couple of these up and then I bring this back up and you start looking at them, you know, in respect to that, I could even cut the arrows down a little bit and start doing this and just start building this out this way. I think this would look better. I think it would look more closely, I think it would more closely resemble the gate and the fence that would be around the Haunted Mansion. The problem is I need about 3 to 3.5 feet of fence kind of going at about this distance. That's a lot of work. And I don't mind the work. It's just, do I have enough time to do that work and then still take care of everything else that I need to take care of for trying to build displays? So I think I'm going to at least initially start with these and build the fence. You guys will see me do it. I'll do it right here on camera when I start that process. And we'll see how it looks. I think it's going to look okay. The hard part is going to be putting them all together, gluing them, and then making sure that they stay put. That's going to be the challenge because they're pretty small. And so I'll have to figure all that out. But more to come on the fence. So that's how the fence is at least being thought out. There's a couple versions of dollhouse fence that I could use, or there's the little arrow picks that you put into drinks that I can cut and make that as a fence. And I think that is the method that I'm going to use at least first and see how that goes. So with that, let's clear some of this stuff off. Let's get the Proxxon table cutter in here and let's start cutting some foam. Okay, so we got the Proxxon in and we're getting ready to start cutting. And so I'm gonna try to put the tripod where you can see. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit and then I'm just gonna work because this is gonna be kind of a tedious thing. And so let me kind of reposition the camera real quick just to kind of show you here that I've got the first measurement. Let me grab the first board. I also took the liberty of taking my T-square and just kind of finishing the line so they're a little bit easier to see. Now, it's pretty square. So the line, honestly, is not gonna, I gotta go with a square edge. So it's gonna cut where it's gonna cut, but it just makes it a little bit easier to see. And then basically the way I do this is I take this up to here with this gate and I match it up to where, now it's not on, the Proxxon is not on. And so essentially I've just got it up to the wire and it lines up with this line, this long line here. And so then I take some painter's tape, just like this, and I affix it on this side and on that side, you can see, of the gate, and that way the gate doesn't go anywhere. And that way I can use both hands to kind of get through and slide this foam up against that gate to kind of keep it level. And I will just have to move with it the entire time. I'm gonna bring this a little bit more this way. And so that's what's gonna happen. So we're gonna do this cut live. Well, I say live, we're gonna do this cut right here on camera. And so I'm turning this on. Now I've dialed this down to, this thing goes from 1 to 6. Right now it's about 3.5. So just a little bit over halfway temperature wise. It's on, and so this should give us a better, a slower cut. Okay, so we've got everything level and everything's good. So now we just start going nice and slow. It looks pretty good, but you can see it's not completely on that, it didn't stay completely on that line. It stayed pretty close, and that's okay. And now this piece is going to be the piece that is going to be glued onto the remaining piece over there to extend the actual base. This is going to be painted black with grass on top of it. So this is going to be, it's going to be covered up, is my point. Okay, so I've got to make one more cut right here. And in order to do that, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to undo this tape. Okay, slide this back. And again, just get over here and sort of measure right about where that needs to be. So we're talking right about there. That's pretty good. So we're going to tape this back down. Same thing over here. Tape that back down. Turn this bad boy on. I'm going to turn this one up just a smidge. We can go, I think, a little bit higher temperature here. And I'm just going to run this right through here. Okay, so this piece then is now cut, and that cut right on the line. That's you can kind of see the line still up there. That cut right on the line, so that's a good cut. And this now should fit over there, and we'll test fit that here in a moment. And we've got two more cuts here. We've basically got to cut another line and then go all the way up through there with this piece. Okay, now with all the cutting done, you can kind of see the square footage of this display now, right? This is the new base, right? So this obviously fits right where it's supposed to go. There's a little bit of overhang, and that's okay. There'll be some brickwork out and through here, obviously, to kind of, it'll look like this. It'll be brickwork out here. Grass all up and around this stuff here. So it'll all blend naturally. And then you can see as we come around, and basically the way I measured this is just, would there be enough room on this side to put a very similar fence? There is. And then would there be enough room on this side to put the similar fence? And there obviously there is. And so that's the goal behind how that is supposed to look. You can see here is the small piece that we cut. That is going to be glued right up through here. and then the fence will go around that little edge there. So that is the cutting, and now we've got some gluing to get done. And we're gonna glue this in two different areas. We're gonna glue this piece onto this piece, and then we're gonna let that set up and dry. And then we're gonna glue this piece onto this piece and let that set up and dry. I would love to be able to take some like maybe spikes or skewers and maybe put it through there. This one is too big to do that. We could certainly do it with this one, but I don't think it needs it because it's going to be glued on there, and then I may glue that whole thing once we get it in the right spot. I may glue the whole thing down to the top of that and make it one solid display is probably what I'll do. So let's start gluing that together and see how it looks. Okay, we are now ready to start the hot glue process, and we're just going to put quite a bit of hot glue on here. I got another one ready. And I'm just going to let that kind of dry on its own, and we're going to put more glue and paint and grass on this side, hopefully to match all of this. I may recoat a lot of the grass just to make sure that it matches, but that's done. We're going to go to the next one. Okay, so now everything is cut and glued together. Now, obviously, well, as I say obvious, it's obvious to me, but you haven't seen it. I have not glued the top part down here yet, but this top part to this. But these are glued, you saw that. I just kind of put some measurements up there. So that's how the gate is going to look. That will be the overhang all the way out through the rest of the fence. Same thing on this side. You can kind of see there's a little bit of overhang there, but that's okay because this piece is not going there. I just need fence to go there, that's all. And that fence will be kind of in line. That fence will kind of be in line with this post. And then you can see the same thing down here. Just enough room to kind of get that on there. So that is the new base that we're going to be working with. This will all be painted. That's got to come next. Actually, the brickwork has got to come next. We've got to do brickwork along here, brickwork along here, brickwork along here. This has got to get painted. We've got to get grass on here, and then we've got to start building the fence. So that's where we're at, and hopefully this all makes sense, but I think we're going to stop this one here for the initial introduction video. Well, hopefully that makes as much sense to you watching it as it does to me designing it. I know there's a lot going on up here, and it does make sense to me when I'm putting it on, kind of envisioning in it and then creating it. It certainly makes sense to me. I think it'll start making a lot more sense as we start getting a little farther into it and it starts coming together. But hopefully, just as a recap, we started really talking about the design process about not trying to create something brand new in the interest of time, but taking something that's already really, really cool and expanding it and extending it to make it better and look better without the the illusion of, wow, you really screw this up, and I can tell that that's an add-on, and there should be none of that. So when this is all said and done, I don't want it to look like there's an add-on here at all. It should just automatically flow. That's the design that I have in mind. And so then we measured and we cut out the base out of 2 pieces of 2 foot by 2 foot XPS foam, glued what we needed together to create one big base, of which now we're going to work from. We're going to paint it, we're going to carve it, and I got that backwards. We're actually going to carve it first, then we're going to paint it, and then we're ready to start building that fence. That is going to take the longest part of this entire thing, but once we get that done and out of the way, we're going to start designing the LED lighting to illuminate some of the pieces that aren't lit. And I think it's going to come together really, really good, and hopefully relatively quick. I'm starting to get back in the mood. That's a good thing. And so that's where we're at. Hey, one final thing. I have really started thinking about the trick-or-treat lane. That is going to be a massive undertaking. I do want to incorporate some little town, like a little city center in the midst of all of this trick-or-treat lane. So I've got some ideas floating around here. I was just able to purchase a couple of different pieces off of eBay to complete the downtown area. So that's coming. And so I'm going to start on that. I don't know that I'll get done with it all before it's time to decorate in the middle of August, or even Halloween for that matter, but I'm going to try, and it's going to be really detailed. It's going to be really cool, and I think you guys are going to learn a lot. So hang in there, be patient. Let's get through the Haunted Mansion first, and we'll move on to bigger and better things. Hey, like always, if you like this video, make sure you click the like button. It certainly helps the channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? I can see the stats. It's about 40% of the folks that are watching aren't subscribed. So you're missing potentially content like this, or like the future content that's coming out with the trick-or-treat lane. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Certainly it'll help you to get notified, especially if you click that little bell icon. It helps the channel to grow. It helps me personally to keep doing things just like this. So hopefully you guys are enjoying all of these tutorials that are getting ready to come your way. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this one up. We're gonna call it done. We'll see you in part 2 coming up here in the next few days or so. Take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you again real soon.